Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be covering what would happen if Tanjiro ate Sukuna's fingers. Before we get into that though, first I have to tell you guys who the art for this thumbnail was made by, and it was made by iCar. You can find her link down below in the description. Also, if you go on to enjoy the video, make sure to slap a like on this video because it genuinely helps out so much more than you guys think, and it only takes 1 second. That said, enjoy.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
The story starts off with Tanjiro making his way up the mountain, when suddenly somebody would say, "Hey kid, come over here." Tanjiro walks over there and the man goes on to explain that it's not safe to go up the mountain at night, telling him that he needs to come inside. Tanjiro would say it's fine, like, "Oh, don't worry about it, I've done it 100 times. And the man would say, "No, you're coming inside." Tanjiro would do as the man would ask, and eventually Tanjiro would be told stories about creatures that roam at night, demons. It'd be at this point that Tanjiro would then go on to be given some soup by the old man, and Tanjiro, while he would be eating this soup, would feel something strange in the soup. It's like there was a finger in it, but Tanjiro, not wanting to be rude, just gulped it down and decided that it was whatever. That same night, Tanjiro went right to bed, and from here, in his bed, Tanjiro went into like a heart attack kind of state where his body began convulsing and it just stops. Tanjiro has this weird dream and he wakes up in another realm almost. It's like another dimension. He would look around and he would see a throne of bones. He looks up and sees himself, but he looks evil, almost corrupted. Tanjiro, looking at himself, would wonder what in the world is going on, right? And then it would be at this point that, Tanjiro himself, like the corrupted version, or Sukuna, would say, "Get lost, you don't belong in my domain." And like Tanjiro would wake up in a cold sweat, grabbing his stuff like in the middle of like the night, or not the middle of the night, but basically just waking up and just grabbing a cup of water and washing his face and just thinking to himself, what was that, right? Ultimately, the man would wake up and he would go on to tell Tanjiro if he's okay. Tanjiro would want to tell him what happened, but he just says that it was a nightmare. And the man would then go on to explain that, okay, like it's fine. Go back to sleep, kid. Like, don't worry, I'm here. And then Tanjiro would do just as the man said. Eventually, as morning time would roll around, Tanjiro would make his way up the mountain, and it would be at this point that he would get a familiar smell. He would smell blood, tons of it. Tanjiro would run up the mountain, hoping for the best, but it would be at this moment that Tanjiro would realize that his whole family got massacred. Tanjiro looks around and sees that his brothers and sisters were torn apart, and blood was covering them. The Demon Slayer theme would start playing, and Tanjiro would realize that his sister's dead. He only sees everybody dead. He doesn't even stop to look at her heartbeat or anything. Tanjiro just falls down onto the ground and, in tears, would then begin maniacally laughing, as it would be at this point that markings would appear all over his body. And Tanjiro would go on to say that, "This feels great. He hasn't inhabited a human body in so long. He's yearned for this." It'd be at this point, simultaneously, that Nezuko would finally wake up, and Sukuna, upon seeing her, would have a devilish smile appear on his face. Knowing what's about to happen, I'm pretty sure you guys can already piece the pieces together, he would rush at her and begin to attack her, slowly. He punches her, sending her flying into a tree, and Nezuko would be stunned at the strength. From here, Tanjiro would go on to straight blitz her again, as Nezuko would try to go in and attack, and he would straight rip her head off with one fell swoop of his hand. Nezuko from here would fall onto the ground and her body begins healing, and it'd be at this point that Sukuna Tanjiro would go on to basically say that she's too weak. This is where she dies. He would be just about to finish her off when suddenly Giyu would appear. Now, as soon as Giyu arrives, he would then go on to use one of his Demon Slayer water breathing forms, right? And he would go in and rush at Sukuna. He would be about to strike him with one of the weaker forms, and Sukuna would parry out of the way, saying, "Too slow." As from here, he would send a punch hard enough that would basically almost break Giyu's sword. and Giyu would be sent flying back. Giyu from here would think to himself that this demon is strong. It's at bare minimum high-ranking demon level, and Giyu would wonder to himself if he can even beat this thing. And it'd be at this point that Tanjiro would smirk and would then go on a blitz, like straight just blitz Giyu, just destroying him, tearing him apart piece by piece, saying he's weak, saying that his swordsman skills need work, saying that he's a mere human, how dare he step up to a demon. And it would be at this point that, Giyu would be about to die, when suddenly Tanjiro would regain control right before he was about to rip off Giyu's head, and Giyu would be on the ground, basically having already accepted his death, when Tanjiro looks at him and his eyes, the markings, they disappear, his eyes go back to normal, and he says, "What's going on?" He turns to see his family, and the tears would begin crawling down his face. He then sees Nezuko a distance away, and he says, "Nezuko, are you okay?" And Nezuko would look at him, and she just got basically killed by him. So she would lunge on top of him, right? And she would be about to straight kill him, because at this point Nezuko's angry. She's not thinking my big brother. And Tanjiro would say, "Nezuko, please don't do this. You're all I have left." And tears would begin coming out of Nezuko's eyes. She would feel rage, but the tears would become falling down from her humanity, right? And it'd be at this moment that Giyu would stand right back up and would decide that it's about time he steps in, and he would grab Nezuko off of Tanjiro, hold her by the neck, and be about to slice her head off. And Tanjiro would scream and say, "Wait, please." And Giyu would say, "Why should I wait? You demon. I'm not gonna let other demons live because of you." And it'd be at this point that Tanjiro would be like, "What are you talking about?" And Giyu would be confused. He's like, "You attacked me, you almost killed me. What do you mean? What am I talking about? Why'd your voice change?" And Tanjiro would be so confused, and it'd be at this point that Nezuko would try her best to break free, and he would aim his sword at the direction of Tanjiro, saying he's next, when suddenly Nezuko would punch Giyu, sending him flying, punching him back, and then get in the way of Tanjiro, protecting him almost. And Giyu, watching this, would be stunned. He's like, "This is the first time that I have ever seen two demons act the way that you guys are." And Tanjiro would be so confused. He's like, "I'm not a demon. What are you talking about?" He's like, "Is there a cure for my sister?" And Giyu goes on to basically tell him that they're interesting, and that his abilities are strange. It almost seems like he's half demon, half male, almost something else to complete control. He called himself Sukuna. "What's your name?" he would ask. And Tanjiro would say, "The name's Tanjiro." As from here, he would say, "Come with me." And it would be at this point that he would basically talk to Tanjiro while they would put Nezuko in a box so that she doesn't burn. And essentially what would happen is Nezuko would have passed out because she got very sleepy, right? So after getting in the box, she passes out in the box, and Tanjiro would make his way towards the Hashira gathering place, right? And once they would end up arriving, keep in mind Tanjiro has his long hair. He never cut it off, so he has his long hair, and he's just kind of looking around, and he sees all the demon slayers there, and he's just wondering to himself what's going on. Suddenly Giyu would then go on to call for the leader of the organization, right? And while he would be making his way there, Giyu would go on to explain to the other Hashira what's going on, saying that this kid is special, and he brought his sister. She's been turned to a demon. They're trying to fix her. And the Hashira, one of the Hashira Sanemi would say that there's no way that could happen. Pass her here so he could finish her off. It'll be easier to let go of her when she's dead. And then Tanjiro would step in the way and would say, "You're not touching a hair on my sister." And Sanemi would speed blitz past him and shove him onto the ground. And he would be right on Nezuko. And he would straight stab the box, causing Nezuko to start bleeding. And Nezuko would be in the shade area where she was in the original, right? And she would get angry at him. And Sanemi, because she still hasn't had the mind control thing where she can't attack, she would be just about to attack, but it would be at this moment that Tanjiro would have the Sukuna markings appear on his body in sunlight, mind you. And he would blitz Sanemi, grabbing him by the throat and picking him up, saying that the next time he ever dares lay a hand on his sister, or let me explain it to you guys, because I'm pretty sure you guys are thinking Sukuna took over, so why is he helping? No, okay, so look, let me explain. So one of Tanjiro's eyes would be his own, the other one would be Sukuna, and he would have the markings, but only on half of his body. And Tanjiro's holding the Wind Hashira up by his throat and saying, "If you ever touch my sister again, I'll kill you. You know what I mean? And he's like being held up, and like Tanjiro's like crushing his throat almost, and like the Demon Slayer would be trying his best to like grab at his blade or something, but then Tanjiro would throw him through that building, and the other Hashira, upon realizing that he's a threat, would unsheath their blades and rush in using their breathing styles. From here, Tanjiro would go on to evade them with the abilities that he has access to right now, and hold them off in a very, very like calculated and powerful mean. Like he stops holding back. Like One Finger Sukuna would start going all out, and like I know that normally One Finger Sukuna like can't go crazy, but I'm not gonna say, oh, like he has to eat all those other fingers, because I'm not about to have Tanjiro go on this mission looking for I'm not having it. All right, just know that this one finger gives him like very, very powerful abilities. Like, okay, and let's say that's all it takes for the Sukuna thing. Okay, let's just bypass that, because I don't have the time to sit here and say, okay, yeah, now Tanjiro looks for 10 fingers, yeah, let's do it, yeah, right, yeah. No, I refuse. Okay, but anyways, he holds them off, and eventually the leader would end up arriving, and he would say, stop. And all the Hashira with their blades drawn would be like ready to like attack, right? Like all of them at the same time. I don't think y'all get that. All of them, right? Like, and the master would say that they need to stop now, that he's here to talk to that boy. And like the one that they would have been fighting that time was not half Tanjiro, half Sukuna. That was straight just Sukuna. It'd be at this point that Tanjiro would like fall down onto his knees, and he would take back control and like basically say he's sorry. From here, like the master would go on and have a talk with him, and would basically end up explaining to him that, you know, his abilities are magnificent. He was able to hold off every single one of their Hashira simultaneously. That's a feat that nobody in the history has ever managed. And Tanjiro's like barely holding on to his consciousness when suddenly he would fall over, and Giyu would pick him up, as the leader would go on to say that he will be taken in along with his sister. And Giyu would then go up and basically say that they're special, and I'm pretty sure they all realize it just now. He has the power to defeat Muzan, he would say. If he was trained properly and he learns how to control that thing that's inside of him, he could potentially destroy Muzan. And then the other Slayers would say that there's no way that they're going to help train the next demon, because if he becomes more powerful, then how are they supposed to ever stop him? Right now, all of them were at a loss for how they were going to kill him whatsoever. So what are they supposed to do if he becomes even more powerful? Yes, he's going to kill Muzan, but then who's going to kill him? None of them were able to beat him. And Giyu would say that, well, it's just a risk he's willing to take, he guesses. And like all the Demon Slayers would basically be against it, but the leader would say that that's enough, that Giyu is going to go on to train this kid. And from here, 2 years would entirely pass, in which the Hashiras would end up basically having to train him. Now, the Hashiras would be like against it. However, there would be two that are willing to like actually do it. It would be Giyu and Rengoku, who would challenge him to another fight, saying that, you know, like it would be very fun, right? And you know, Tanjiro would wake up the next day, and the Hashiras would like question him, like why they should trust him. And like simply put, Tanjiro would simply say, would you rather have me as an enemy or an ally? And all of them have that really like sink in. They're like, okay, like I get what he's trying to say. Like either they accept him on their side, or he goes and finds another side that will be willing to accept him. And you know, they all kind of understand, like, okay, whatever, I guess like it's a risk we're willing to take. So Tanjiro would then go on to be trained in breathing styles and stuff like that. And for the next 2 years, like Tanjiro's body would go through a rigorous amount of training. However, because he has Sukuna inside of him, his body like is low-key a little stronger than normal. So the training, although it wouldn't be easy, it wouldn't be the hardest thing in the world. And after 2 years of constant training, hardening his hand, learning how to take a fall, learning how to get even more powerful, even more stronger, Tanjiro would just begin to become this busted monster that would just absolutely not be able to be taken out by anybody. You know what I mean? And it'd be at this point that Tanjiro would realize that, you know, he's strong enough to defeat this so-called Muzan, the one responsible for murdering his family. Tanjiro during this time would have tried to tame Sukuna, but he still wasn't able to. And he's only ever managed to like tap into his half Tanjiro, half Sukuna state once before. So he's just like at a loss like as to what he should do, you know what I mean? But ultimately what would end up going down is that Tanjiro would make his way down the mountain where like the Hashiras are at, and decide that he's just gonna go and try to find this Muzan guy because he's done waiting. Like if worst comes to worst, he'll just let Sukuna kill him. And you know, the Hashiras would just say that, you know, that's a dangerous plan, but you know, it is what it is. and Tanjiro would be sent on a mission. And on this mission, Tanjiro would end up being sent to a little town that basically has like this demon that's hunting a bunch of girls, you know, the one that we would get in the original, like his first mission. And also he wouldn't have to go through final selection just because he got trained by the Hashiras personally, and they know his level. They know that he can handle himself against other demons, you know. Obviously he's already like high ranking demon level. Like Tanjiro, because he was trained by them, is already like a very advanced level. So once he makes his way towards this small town and ends up finding this man, the encounter goes down almost kind of like in the original. And eventually, once they end up encountering the demon responsible for killing all those young girls, Tanjiro would like blitz at it and just absolutely demolish the two other like brother siblings, like fusion thing that the demon has access to. And he would still press the demon just like he would in the original. The demon ultimately would still be too scared, and like it would like not be able to answer Tanjiro's question of where's Muzan, you know. It'd be at this point that Tanjiro would kill it and make his way towards another town. Once Tanjiro would end up actually arriving there, Tanjiro would realize that like he has nothing else like to do, you know what I mean. And essentially what Tanjiro would do is he would go and get some grub. He goes to some ramen shop and he finds this very delicious smelling ramen. He orders something, and as he's eating, like he's basically halfway done, he smells the smell of the demon that was present at his house. Tanjiro would immediately like just blitz. Like he almost like leaves a crater in the ground with how fast he runs. Like he runs so fast straight at the direction of Muzan, and the second that he arrives, he would go on to straight like be right in front of Muzan, as he would say, "Hey Muzan, how are you?" And like he's being like super like nice to him at this moment. And Muzan just like looks at him and he's like, "Sorry, like who are you trying to refer to me as?" And Tanjiro says, "Don't play games. I don't like I'm not here to play games. Come with me. I have an offer you can't resist." Like seeing that there's a bunch of people, he goes on to tell Muzan to follow him. And Muzan's like, "Oh, well, I can't do that exactly, right?" And then Muzan would be right about to like scratch somebody in the neck to turn them into a demon so that could be a distraction. Tanjiro whips out his blade and straight goes on to like try to cut Muzan's arm as he was about to like scratch the man. He would miss, and the man wouldn't be able to get scratched because Muzan wasn't able to like get as far, you know, he wasn't able to get the touch in. And Tanjiro would say, "Bingo." As from here, he would use his blade to just slash at Muzan and send him flying. And Muzan would end up landing, and like the scar would instantly heal. Tanjiro looks at the direction of Muzan, as you know, he would have sent him flying pretty far. And he would then go on to say that he has been training for this moment for the past 2 years, and that he's gonna be the last thing he sees. His blade's gonna be the final thing that Muzan gets to see. And Muzan like laughs and goes on to say if he really thinks that doing this is gonna accomplish anything, he ruined his cover. And Muzan would be angry at this moment. Like he's pissed. Like, let me just, I can't put that light. Like Muzan is pissed. And Tanjiro would say, "Oh, well, that's cool. Well, I guess you're gonna have fun meeting my friend." As from here, Tanjiro lets Sukuna take over, and Sukuna looks at Muzan. Now Muzan would shoot a full power attack at the direction of Tanjiro's body, and Tanjiro would just instantly dodge, saying, "That's it? This is the power of the great demon Muzan? Let me show you something, kid." As from here, he would blitz him and like straight make a mockery out of Muzan. Muzan would feel like a cockroach in the presence of whatever this is. And like Muzan would ask, "What is he?" And he would say he's a demon, but he's cursed. He's a cursed spirit. He's made of cursed energy. He's not bound by the sun like these weak demons are. He's even more powerful than they could ever imagine. And Muzan would be like stunned. He's like, "Don't kill me. Like, we could work together." Like he's trying his best to like tell him like, "I could turn you into a demon. Like you could get even more strength. You could be cursed and demon. Like think about how strong that would be." And like Sukuna would laugh and like would straight laugh in Muzan's offer, like in his face, before he just walks over and uses his domain expansion on him, just absolutely obliterating Muzan and leaving nothing to be desired. Muzan would be ripped apart and ripped to pieces, and then Tanjiro, who is in the town, would be fighting, like trying to gain back control over Sukuna, right? As what would end up going down is ultimately Tanjiro just straight up can't. Like Tanjiro this whole time thought that he could use Sukuna, but Sukuna was using him. And as much as Tanjiro tried to like take back control, it just wasn't working. Sukuna ends up taking control of Tanjiro. And let's just say that that's not a very good thing, because that means that Sukuna would end up going back in that town and destroying a bunch of humans, right? Eventually a bunch of policemen would arrive and they'd be like, stop right there, you know, their batons out. But Sukuna's not playing. He straight rips 5 policemen's head off at the same time and then would go on to lick his fingers, as like he would begin to cause mass destruction in that area. And then he would go towards another town and begin to destroy it and rip it apart. And like he would be like just having a fun time. He would just be bringing calamities onto different places, like regardless of who's there. Eventually the Hashira would get word of this and they would say that they knew this would happen. Giyu would like make his way there and would say that he's gonna be the one who stops him. And all of them would make their way there, and like Nezuko would be like back at the Hashira headquarters because she's still not hurting humans, so you know there's no reason they should take her out. But ultimately the demon slayers, all of them would end up, like all the Hashiras would end up arriving, and like they would look at Tanjiro as his Sukuna form and they would say like you have to stop this, like there's no like fun in this, like you're just killing people. And Sukuna says, there's no fun in killing people? That is the fun. As from here, like the demon slayers would say that he leaves them no choice, like please, like Tanjiro, snap out of it. Like they would try to like basically talk no jutsu him, but it just wouldn't work. And ultimately Sukuna would say, enough talk, let's dance, blitzing at them and beginning to like attack them. He would rip off the head of the butterfly Hashira instantly. And it'd be at that moment that all the Hashiras would realize that there's no talking back, there's no talking him out of this, there's no none of that. He officially killed somebody, so now he has to pay the consequences regardless of whether he snaps out of it or not. And Tanjiro would just, he would try, like internally, he would be like trying his absolute hardest to take back control, but he just can't. Sukuna is in complete and utter control of Tanjiro's body. And he would go on to rip apart each and every single one of these demon slayers, embarrassing them, just like Gojo does when Sukuna ends up taking control. That's exactly what happens, and he can't stop it for the life of him. He can't stop it. All the Hashiras would die, and Sukuna would stand on top as the apex predator of the world. No one could stand up to Sukuna, the Demon King.